Have you checked the children? You're a little mad sometimes.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Long days and pleasant nights, fellow travelers along the path of the beam. I am known on this level of the tower as Jaime and Fuego, and if it please you, join me here for a bit of palaver on Hail to Stephen King. That is right, and obviously, bienvenidos, and welcome to the horror show. I have been doing this program for over 300 episodes, and so supremely stoked to be talking for its 15th anniversary. Yes, that is Reezy, none other than 1408, yeah, scope that out. So yes, John Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson would eventually reconvene for Cell, which, god damn it, it could have been so much better, but it is what it is. But this is really the one where the source material was elevated distinctively. And so, more so than anything, the awesome fact that we had Mikael Hastrom, as I am trying to pronounce his name properly, but yeah, man, he directed the hell out of this. And this is most definitely a situation where, as I just mentioned, source material, only like, what, around 30 pages, I think, is the short story that initially appeared in a cigarette-centric bit that King did. He read it himself, actually, and then it was later recollected for Everything's Eventual. And so, yeah, 1408 was one of those that it jumped right into the concept, and it plowed its way through, and, you know, hey, scary guy, you know, going into a scenario where he is trying to debunk a haunting of a particular place, and he gets his just due for being so naive and so cynical and all of that other stuff. And, yeah, I mean, amusing in that regard, frightening in its own, you know, particular fashion as well, and yet the film adaptation is where it really just shone through and elevated itself, as I, you know, already mentioned a couple of times in this particular capacity. And so, yeah, man, 1408, the film, as opposed to the, you know, source material, where we are like right there at the Dolphin, and, you know, Mike is just right about to step into this place, and, you know, he has his dissertation with the guy who is very well aware of, you know, just the haunting, the crazy capacity, the fright factor, so to speak, and, you know, it's cynical and disbelieving as ever, you know, especially for the sheer fact that Mike has done all of these different haunting escapades and so on and so forth, and he is disbelieving. He is there to debunk, and he does not have that sort of faith about there being a fright factor or something legitimate, significant, whatever it may be. And yeah, he is proven wrong. And so that's where this particular film really shines, in the fact that we get so much more about Mike. So as opposed to jumping right to him trying to debunk this bit at a New York hotel, we get him initially at another place, and we get the fact that there is a lost daughter, and we get the fact that he had a marriage with somebody that he did truly love, and it kind of fell apart, and it was just very closely, you know, connected with the loss of said daughter and the tragic aspect of that. And yeah, I mean, it gives so much more, like, breadth and weight to this character that John Cusack plays. And, I mean, I've been a big Cusack fan, you know, I mean, Say Anything and High Fidelity and so on and so forth, so he was very much the right guy, in my estimation, to actually play this, you know, cynical disbeliever of sorts, but yet one that also kind of had, I'm not going to say a heart of gold, because he's not, like, to that extent, but, I mean, somebody that you could root for, you know, somebody that you would appreciate, somebody that you would, you know, want to just root for, so to speak, I suppose. And, yeah, he does a terrific job of that, and lo and behold, man, I mean, Samuel L. Jackson, such major mad props, man, you know, to just bring so much more life to the character of Owen than you even had on the pages in the initial King story. You know, he's a cautionary character, and that's obviously, you know, imperative as far as the narrative goes, but, I mean, the kinship that they kind of have with the one meeting in the actual short story it's fine, but it is elevated so significantly based on the actors' chemistry, with this particular film. And yeah, I mean, Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson, they have an essence of rapport, I suppose. Like, you can tell that there is a mutual respect and that there is elevation, once again, of the source material. And so you've got Cusack trying to debunk this thing in 1408, and the interesting thing with this rewatch is the fact that, 1408, like, all the numbers add up to the 13th floor, and also remember the fact that, there is there's no 13th floor in all of these, like, well-respected sort of buildings and stuff, most notably in New York. But, I mean, even here in the deadly desert of Arizona, it's a thing. Like, you jump from 12 to 14. And so the 14th floor is, in fact, the 13th floor, if you're going to get technical about it, which is kind of funny. And so, yeah, that just deveils all the mystique and all of the nastiness and craziness that you can take into consideration here. And so from a directorial standpoint, more so than anything, I feel like this film is so beautifully done. I do think it was actually filmed in Toronto, if I remember correctly, which is like the respective stand-in for New York City a lot of the time, and that's why, it's from a monetary standpoint. But it's delightfully done, and it is beautifully shot, and especially when you watch some of the behind-the-scenes bits, and where there is like the water coming in, and just the fact that it really just elevates itself from a stylistic standpoint, and I appreciate the hell out of that. But it would not hold that proverbial weight if not for the fact that John Cusack is so good in this, and he's able to just holster and shoulder such a significant amount, because yes, we have the backstory that was not in the short that King put together, with the wife and with the connection and the lost daughter and all of that other stuff, which elevates, as I mentioned. But it really is it's not a one like trick pony sort of situation, with John Cusack, but damn, does he have a lot to just be responsible for. And especially in the fact that, talking into the little voice recorder constantly. And he does such a damn good job of just progressing the plot line forward and yet still being captivating and still being intriguing in that particular regard. Like, man, I guess that he has kind of fallen off the rails a little bit in the last few years, most notably, in this like post-COVID sort of crazy. But man, Cusack really shoulders a lot in this, and he is damn good. And the dream sequences are trippy and crazy and frightening and disturbing. I've tossed all of the adjectives out there, and but it's done in such a fascinating and captivating fashion that, I mean, how else could you describe it if not for using those big like exclamation point sort of words just to toss out there. And he is there to debunk, and yet he finds that this is in fact a situation that is much more significant and much more scarific and spectacular than he was initially, just kind of thinking in his head. And another big comparison with the short story is the fact that in the short, he makes it like 70 minutes, I think, if I recall correctly, because I did re-listen to the short story before rewatching, and man, I mean, he makes it longer in the film, obviously, because you have a near 2-hour runtime, which, if I'm gonna like express any sort of detriment, because this is one of those few King tales where I feel like this is better than the source material, like significantly superior. But the runtime is most definitely one of the flaws in this, because I feel like this probably should have been in the 90 to 100 minute runtime, and it's almost 2 hours. And so that's probably one of the few flaws that I could point out, unfortunately, but I mean, aside from that, it does mess with the tempo and the pacing a little bit, because he is constantly checking the clock, especially in that third act. And but yet, you have the psych out sort of factor, which I guess just mends down that runtime and keeps you guessing, at least to a certain degree. So I don't know. That's as I'm like grasping at the proverbial straws here, trying to think of something where I could be critical about. Yes, that is most definitely one of the only things that I can just pinpoint and just call attention to, so to speak. But aside from that, man, like, this is most definitely, 1408 is the elevated source material, especially with the fact that it is a very just concise and right to the jugular sort of story about being proven wrong, and the film really expands upon the rumination on loss, on just how you forge forward after just terrible tragedy. Most notably of, there is nobody who is, like, parents never think they're going to outlive their children, right? That's kind of a given. And so for that reason, it is just terribly traumatic in that regard. And so Cusack sells it well, and in the few scenes that we get, Samuel L. J., he's great as well. The actress who actually plays John Cusack's wife, or estranged wife of sorts, her name is eluding me, unfortunately, but I have issues with the ending, though. Okay, so that is the big thing that I'm going to be jumping into here as we're kind of rounding out a slightly shorter Hail to Stephen King episode today. And that's because of the fact that, the short story ends drastically differently. Let's put it that way, and yes, the scarring and the, surgery and so on and so forth, and yet being able to be alive and well to tell the tale, so to speak. And, not the case, at least in the theatrical cut of this. However, there are two different alternate endings for 1408, which are available here on this particular Blu-ray, and I think they're on the DVD as well. But nonetheless, there are two different ones that just kind of, they give you a little bit more of a hopeful finale. I suppose you could just describe it as such and whatnot. And I personally prefer the first alternate ending, if I recall correctly, where, he's back in California and he has his wife there with him and they seem to be, like, reconciling and so on. I don't know, it just really depends on if you like the dark and foreboding and like sad sort of ending. And all too often, as I've said on this program countless times, I like the cynical, shitty, just unhappy sort of thing. And it's really, like, evocative of horror, in the fact that, yes, things don't all too often work out the way that we would personally prefer. And so for that reason, it's downtrodden and nasty and off-putting and all that. But I don't know, the fact that Cusack's character as Mike is really just, you not only root for him despite his flaws, and also the whole cigarette thing, I would be remiss if I did not make mention of this. And my younger brother, Johnny C., love you, dude, if you are checking out this particular episode. But yeah, a smoker is a smoker when the chips are down. I know that's, like, verbatim and whatever, but I know King has said countless times, he's like, man, like, the drugs, the drinking, the booze, the coke, like, all that different stuff, that was so much a part of his life, most notably in the 80s, but that he has gone on record various times to say that it's the smoking. He's like, I still have a few cigarettes here and there. He's like, I cannot quit it. And I guess I can I can relate, so to speak, whether it's like puffing on a black and mild or whatever the hell it may be. But that's why this particular story was in the Blood and Smoke collective initially, and then later collected for Everything's Eventual. But I mean, yeah, smoker is a smoker when the chips are down, man, and that is most notably something that it's why Mike's character, that has the, just chilling on his ear. He's got the little smoke to doke, and it's almost like a, hope for the best, plan for the worst sort of situation, because if the worst does in fact transpire, you're going to pull and you're going to light up, and it's going to be, dare I say, glorious, unfortunately, because nicotine is, as King could probably attest to, one of the most addictive things that has ever been conceived, by the mind of man. And but nonetheless, aside from all of that, I do enjoy a more hopeful ending with this particular story. And it's weird because all too often I like that dark sort of, just hopeless nastiness that we see in stuff like Pet Sematary and, various others. But I I honestly wanted something okay to happen for our protagonist in this, and so for that reason, I actually wanted the reconciliation with his wife. And once again, all of this not in the short story. This is all exclusively for the film, and yeah, I just wanted a more positive sort of outcome, and I would imagine that's probably because of the fact that I love John Cusack so much, so I didn't want to see him stuck in 1408 and there with his daughter and the proverbial essence of said ghost there along with him, and he's reined into this bit of nastiness. Like I wanted things to get figured out and to just kind of conclude on a more positive sort of standpoint. And so yeah, that's why I prefer the alternate ending, and yet the other alternate ending, because there's what, 2 or 3 on the DVD and Blu-ray, if I recall correctly. The other one is just like, it gives some of the flavor that we have in the more positive ending, and then it just jumps right back to, oh, you're still stuck there, and it's nasty and foreboding and so on and so forth. But I love just to rein back and circle backwards. I dig the fact of a supernatural debunker. I am very much about it, and the fact that King had not really done that sort of, story flair before, it's really cool, and I feel like it plays very significantly to his sympathies, maybe, in the fact that, yeah, there are those who have read his scary stuff and are like, I'm gonna, just make my life about trying to make it known that all of the scary stuff that some people just hypothetically write about and theorize and whatever, it's not real, And yeah, with that being kept in proper proverbial mind, I love 1408, and I personally love this movie. And it is most definitely one of the few Sai King stories where the source material was elevated, and there's only a handful where that is actually a very obvious contention. And so we're talking, all too obvious, Stand By Me, Green Mile. Yeah, I mean, these are ones where you have a small amount of context and you're expanding upon such. And so, I mean, Shawshank Redemption, goddamn, dude. I mean, these are the ones where it was most definitely like the groundwork was laid in a very captivating and compelling fashion, and you just had to stretch it into a feature-length amount of storytelling. And man, 1408 most definitely did a very compelling and captivating just work on that. And just the scene specifically, and it's one of my personal favorites, it's where Samuel L. Jackson's character is trying in his office to convince John Cusack not to stay the night, and he offers him some booze, and there's a cigar and so on and so forth. But that it was apparently there's alternate versions of this particular scene here on the Blu-ray, and it shows such a just master class of acting between these two incredibly gifted people. And Cusack and Samuel L. Jackson, the fact that they did these different takes, and Cusack especially, there is a particular essence of enunciation that he puts forth in his performance here, and the fact that he altered it and changed it depending on the take, and it's really captivating. It's very fascinating just to see a masterclass of this particular actor and how they're kind of trying to like wiggle their way in and just feel it out, and just trying different things. It's really cool, and it's why I am still such a major proponent and champion of physical media, because if you're just renting this online, man, you're not, or watching it on a streaming service or whatever, you are not going to get those just peeling the curtain back sort of, fascination that you do in fact still get with a lot of, home releases and stuff. And so I cannot champion, once again, enough 1408. It is one of the best Stephen King adaptations. I will definitely contend that. And yes, here on Hail to Stephen King, everybody, I extend a grande gracias for everybody who is tuning in and just, seeing me talking off the cuff about this particular amazing film that just saw its anniversary for 2006 here on June 22nd. It was released, and yeah, I'm filming this after having been in a very frightening car accident just the other day, and so if I feel a little scatterbrained or strange or whatever, that is most definitely something that is weighing heavily on my heart, and it's very strange, and it's been a very weird last few days, but I am just humbled and honored to be a part of the process here with all of you. And yeah, you can find me on all social media sectors, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, here on YouTube, obviously, on July 1st. Yes, it is happening. It is transpiring. There is a relaunch of Fuego-tainment, my own personal channel, and one of the just things that's gonna help, toss things through and, just make everything rad status is Scott Smith's The Ruins, which I read as I was driving around this past week and listened to it on the headphones and such, and it's an amazing book. Really, really great, and I filmed a review of that. So, yes, I'm not sure if it's going to be on Infotainment or on The Horror Show, but that is something to look forward to. And yes, here on The Horror Show specifically, where Hail to Stephen King has resided for over 6 years now. God damn! Yes, that's Reese. It is a humbling and honoring process to continue to bring these episodes to all of you. The liking, the sharing, the subscribing means a hell of a lot, and there is also a Hail to Stephen King Facebook group. There's actually been some movement there, a little bit more so than at least the last few months, like post-pandemic and such. So, yeah, if you want to talk Joe Hill, Cy King, anything in the King family, Tabby, Owen, whatever it may be, it is all free range on the Hail to Stephen King Facebook group, and so supremely appreciated for all of the great palaver that we have there. And yes, next week, next Tuesday, is going to be a discussion about the drawing of the three. I have reviewed all of the Dark Tower books previously. However, this time I am just jumping around for anniversary purposes, and yeah, it's going to be interesting to just put a magnifying glass on that book specifically and be like, okay, I have issues with it. It's not one of my personal favorites. It's like right there with Wolves, and the 5th entry in the DT, just the path of the beam, so to speak, and not one of my personal favorites, but I am very much looking forward to giving it a analysis in a singular, just on its own sort of situation. So aside from, the previous one, Gunslinger and all that, and like 3 and 4 are my 2 favorites in the entire, path, so to speak. And so, yes, it's going to be fun to talk about the drawing of the 3 all on its own. That's going to be a live show next Tuesday. Very much looking forward to it. And that's going to be the end of the proceedings for today. And yes, if you have not checked out 1408, goddamn, it is fantastic. It's not streaming on any service, unfortunately, which is why I am such a big proponent of physical media. But hey, $3.99 I think on Prime, and Vudu and all those different places where you can rent stuff. But hey, go to your local resale store and pick up a copy. It's probably around the same price point that you would be spending just to rent it. So, amass physical media. That is what I will continually contend. And until the Wheel of Ka comes around once more, hasta luego, San Amigos, constant readers and viewers alike, say thank you. I'm hoping that we have been well met and that we share more of this palaver sooner rather than later. And until then, remember to stay scared. And in this case, as much as I always say read Stephen King, this is one of the few instances where watch Stephen King, because 1408, the film, it really elevates the source material.